you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is going to be the update to the Almost Immortal Warrior tank build. This is a Dragonknight tank for the Elsweyr chapter. It's been around for a very long time. The same premise as before, so basically you're extremely tanky, you have massive survival, but in turn you can also survive enough so that the healers don't need to focus on you, they can focus on the group instead, and of course you can supply much needed damage shields to the group, which also helps people survive. So, this can be used in any content you like. It's been used in just about everything, so if you like this kind of setup, then of course carry on. I'm going to explain everything in detail, but if you are looking for Ebon and Alkosh, that has been done a million times before. I don't duplicate content from other people, I make my own. So if you're interested in that stuff, there are videos out there with that. You're not going to see that in here today. Anyway, first of all, I'm going to go into the stats. So let's pop a potion first. We've got all our recovery showing, all our shiny stuff. Everything on. Lovely. Right, we are on a whopping 51.1k max health, 10k max magicka, and 20k stam. We have 1.8k recovery for magicka, and we are on not far short of cap spell resistance. We're on 31.7, so we have a minor buff there. We actually go and hit cap, and our physical resistance is 30.2, which is under cap. If you get the minor buff as well, you'll be slightly under still, but it's not far off. So it's very, very nice resistances, solid stats across the board. 64 points into max health. We do not need any more into stamina because we've got more than enough anyway. And also we've got minor Aegis. We're using the Atronach Mundus Stone. We are a stage 4 vampire. Minor Aegis is in one of our sets, by the way. We are a stage 4 vampire because it's extremely strong, especially on a tank. And we're using max health, max stamina food. Now, if you are extremely comfortable as a tank, and you can utilize heavy attacks, which you should be doing anyway, to keep your sustain up during moments where you're not going to die. So if there's a heavy attack coming, of course you want to block it. But if there are phases throughout the fight, whatever fight you're in, where you know for sure you can get away without blocking, and with this set you can quite a lot, you can of course go with max health, max mag recovery food. And this will of course keep your health roughly the same. You're on 51k still. Your stamina will go down considerably to about 14k, although this used to run off of 10k, no problem whatsoever, but your recovery will go up. If we're using a potion at the same time, our mag recovery is now 2500, 2522. That's absolutely insane. When I get to the skills, this will make more sense, but you'll be able to protect your group more often because you can spam these magic-based skills. So, the choice is yours, depending on the content. Really heavy block situations, obviously you want to use the max health, max stam food, but if you don't have to block that often, apart from the odd heavy here and there, then use the recovery food. It's absolutely mental. But for the purpose of this, we're going to keep this on for now. So, I'm going to go into the skills. I will explain these in a lot of detail. I'll explain exactly why they're there, what they do, how they're effective to this build. If you have already seen this before and you don't need to understand their purpose, then of course you're welcome to skip this. But if you do skip the skills section or any of the video whatsoever, and you do ask questions that I've already answered in the video, I won't necessarily be wasting my time and responding to those because the information is already there. So the choice is yours. So, first of all, we are using Igneous Shields. This is in the Earth and Heart skill line. This is the third ability you unlock, so you might want a couple of these on your bar to start with while leveling up. And this starts off as Obsidian Shield, morph it to Igneous Shield. Now what this does is very, very simple. It gives you a damage shield. So, this damage shield goes onto you and 5 other people. It will protect you and them for X amount of health. But the health that you protect your group with is based off of your max health, because this shield scales off of your maximum. So the higher your health actually is, the stronger this shield is. So for other people, this will give them a 4.3k damage shield, but for ourselves, it's 10.9. We have a massive, massive damage shield. And as you can see, this scales off proportion of the max health that you have. So this is more effective the higher your health. Now, also at the same time, it gives you major mending. If you look at my buffs at the bottom there, you'll see a yellow one. It doesn't last very long, but you see that? While that's active, all of your healing done will be higher. So any heals that you do will be stronger by 25%. So utilize that. Whenever you've got to heal anything, shield first, heal second. But because we've got high mag recovery, whether we're using stam food or not, we can actually use this very, very often, keep that major mending buff up, keep the damage shields up, and protect the group. As a tank, we're supposed to be able to be the ones that can get hit and take it. At the same time, you can protect people. Next up is Green Dragon Blood. This is in the Draconic Power skill line. This is the third ability you unlock as well. Just like the other one, you must have other skills on your bar to start with to level this skill line up. Once you've got it, get Dragon Blood and morph it to Green Dragon Blood. Now this will give you an actual buff while it's active. So you turn into that strange see-through body where you can see your heart pulsing, which is pretty cool. But this will give you major fortitude and major endurance, increasing your health recovery and stamina recovery. Now, we are a vampire, so our health recovery is not that important, but obviously stamina recovery is important if you are not blocking. Now, if you don't understand that, especially if you're new to the game, holding block, let me waste some stamina here. We'll use some stamina abilities without giving too much away. You can see my stamina? It does not recover while you are holding block. So that is why you want to get out of the habit of perma-blocking if you want to sustain, especially if you're using lesser stat food, and heavy attack to get stuff back instead. While blocking, you do not recover, but when you drop your block, you do recover. As you can see, my stamina is now going up. So, although this isn't a buff that would benefit us all the time, when our shield is down, it will. So those two recovery bonuses are actually really quite nice. They do help occasionally. Minor Vitality is also a bonus we get from this, which increases our healing received by 8%. Healing received is a bonus, or healing taken. It's the same thing, where any healing that you do or anybody else does to you will be stronger. So healing done is your heals that you specifically do. Healing received is whatever heals you actually benefit from, whether it's yours or somebody else's. Now, not only do we get those buffs, but at the same time, this also heals you for 37% of your missing health. That's a percentage of your overall bar. Obviously, the higher health you actually have, the bigger your health bar, the larger chunk that is, the more health you actually get back, because it's a percentage of your total. However, I said earlier, Major Mending affects our healing done, and it does. So if you Igneous Shield first, heal second, instead of 37% of your missing health back, you will get 45%. So you can go very low health and get a really big burst heal. But just bear in mind, of course, if you want those extra buffs, you do have to keep this active. So don't spam it, don't only use it when you need a heal, keep it active every 20 seconds, and then if you do need a heal inside of that, obviously reapply it. Very, very important that you get that kind of combo in there. Shield first, heal second. But keep this buff up. Now, next up is Pierce Armor. This is very, very simple. It's in the Sword and Board skill line, one hand and shield. And this is the first ability you unlock. This is your bread and butter as a tank. This is your taunt. Now, if you haven't played this game before, there's a lot of new players now coming. Taunting in this game is how you keep aggro as a tank. Other games, of course, there's aggro counters where you can do way too much damage and steal aggro off the tank. You can't do that here. What you do is you apply a taunt for the duration that it lasts, and if it falls off, the enemy can run off and try and hit somebody else. This lasts 15 seconds, literally just stab the target, and for 15 seconds, it will hit you. There are area of effect abilities from certain bosses, of course, and other mechanics involved, but essentially, this is the taunt to keep them on you. Now, here is something that I do see people doing wrong. I see a lot of people applying a taunt, waiting for it to run out, and then reapplying it again. Do not do that. If you do that, the second that falls off, it's very likely to spin and kill the group. It'll just turn around, pick a target, and slap them. Reapply this taunt before it runs out. That way you'll have 100% uptime on it. Now, in the meantime, this does also, it starts off as Puncture, by the way, morph it to Pierce Armor on purpose, because the morph of this actually applies Major Fracture and Major Breach to the target for 12 seconds. Now, note, the taunt lasts 15, but the debuff lasts 12 seconds. So you want to reapply this every 12. This will strip the resistances of the target by 5280. This is an actual buff or debuff type, so they do not stack with another of exactly the same type. So this is on its own a standalone debuff. Do apply this as much as possible. Make sure this stays on the target, and for doing so, obviously, it will strip that much resistances. The resistances in PvE are 18,200. This removes 5280 of that, which means obviously your group will hit harder. So keep this applied all the time. As well as keeping the taunt up, keep this debuff up. So your 12 seconds, don't let it run out. Reapply all the time. Next up, of course, is Absorb Magicka. In the same skill line, a third ability you unlock. This starts off as Defensive Posture. Morph it to Absorb Magic. Now, what this does is it gives you a bonus for being slotted. You don't actually have to press anything. And the amount of damage you can block is improved. So you have actual mitigating effects while blocking. And also the block cost is down as well. But if you do activate this, very simple, looks like this. It does coat your health bar with a damage shield, but it's not for all damage. Where Igneous Shield is for all damage, this is only for incoming direct Magicka projectiles. You can block one of them with this shield. And when you do, you will actually absorb it up to 25k damage, which can actually go higher if your stats go higher. And what this will do is this will heal you as well for 17% of your maximum health. Now, If, for argument's sake, let's say 20. In fact, it will be, because we can put Ignis shields on first. Shield first, heal second. 20% of your max health, not 17. So, if you have 20k max health, this is a 4k heal. If you have 40k max health, this is an 8k heal. You see where I'm going with this? The more health you have, the more effective health percentage-based bonuses are. So this is based off of max health, so it's really strong. This heal is based off of max health, so is this. It's very, very powerful indeed. The higher, the better. Yes, of course, you can still utilize it at lower health, but the more health you have, the more effective it is. Next up is Bone Surge, and this is in the Undaunted skill line. This is the 4th ability to unlock, so you just need to do dungeon achievements and all that kind of stuff to unlock this. Once you get it, get Bone Shield, morph it to Bone Surge. Now this will actually give you a damage shield as well, but this costs stamina, not magicka. Now, this doesn't protect everybody else outright. This has a synergy attached to it. So someone has to take the synergy. All they have to do is be fairly close. Not in the face of the boss, but close enough to take it. And if they do take this shield, you will shield 3 other people for up to 50% of their maximum health for 6 seconds. And they'll get major vitality, increasing their heal and receive. So not only does this protect people, but it also boosts the heals that they receive. And that is the whole purpose of this build as well. As well as holding aggro and not being the one that's dead or sucking up all the heals, you have a damage shield here that protects your group, so the healers have an easier job. And you have this damage shield, which not only protects them, but encourages the healers to keep the heals on them because the heals are stronger. So these two combined are massive protection to your group as long as you can utilize them effectively. Not only that, for yourself, however, this does give you a damage shield equivalent of 30% of your max health. And this is all damage as well. It'll take all damage types. So if you put this on, you won't take any damage until it runs out or falls off, based on the damage you take. 30% of your max health, of course, again, it's based on a maximum with a percentage. So the higher your health, the larger this shield. I don't need to underline, of course, with the new Necro abilities, when people go Bone Goliath, this is absolutely mental. But anyway, you can utilize one at a time if you want, or you can utilize both at the same time, and they do stack. But just bear in mind, this one costs stamina, so you may want to heavy attack a bit more often to be able to use it. This one costs magicka, and because we've got high mag recovery, this can be spammed more often. Just note, by the way, this does not scale off of maximum magicka, so you don't need a massive mag pool. What you need is recovery, so you can spam it more often. This is scaled off your health. Now, next up is the main ultimate, our front bar. This is our oh shit button. You don't have to select this if you don't want to, but it's very, very effective if you can use it in the right situations. Now this, for 7 seconds, starts off as shield wall, by the way. Morph it to shield discipline. You do need sword and board level 50 to unlock this, but it lasts 7 seconds. It's 131 ultimate, so it's incredibly cheap, and it does cost a bit more than that depending on your race, by the way. We'll get to that in a bit. But this allows you to block for free for 7 seconds. You literally just fire the ultimate and you block while running around doing whatever you're doing. You don't have to do a damn thing. Just press it and you're automatically blocking. Now, when this happens, also, any of your sword and board abilities, so Absorb Magicka, or Absorb Magic or Taunt, are free. So if you're really, really low on resources, pop this. Maybe sneak in a heavy attack from underneath it, because you can. You can actually use your abilities while you're blocking, because this just shields you. You can apply these abilities, re-taunt stuff, absorb damage, whatever you want to do. This is very, very powerful indeed. Now, when it comes to certain content, this is most effective when you are low on resources, when someone dies or everyone's dead and you're the last one up and you can time this in order to res people, or the axes on Arthurian Archive. If you are the main tank for the axes on Arthurian Archive and you pop this, obviously you block for nothing and you can heavy attack them from underneath your shield. You can utilize this very, very often and your resources are covered. It's very, very good indeed. So there are situations where you may want to use this and you may not, but if not, you can of course switch to Magma Shell, which will make you borderline immortal for 10 seconds, or 12 seconds in fact, because they increase the timer on it. All damage you take will do a maximum of 3% of your max health, and of course you do flame damage to the enemy, which is minimal. You don't do that much, so it's not that important, but the Immortal button basically is. And nearby allies, again, will get a damage shield equivalent to 100% of their max health. So you give them a massive shield, you have shields here, you have shield here, and you basically can't die. But it is more expensive, so it's entirely up to you which one you utilize. You don't block for free using this Magma Shell Ultimate, but you do block for free using the Shield Discipline, and it's a lot cheaper. So the choice is yours, but I definitely prefer this one because of its cost and its utility. Blocking for free and using abilities at the same time is nuts. Next up, This is a flex slot depending on the content you're in. Don't laugh. Yes, it is Mistform and it is in the Vampire skill line. When I first made this build in November 2016, there were people that were like, huh? He's using Mistform? Why? Well, I explained it in that video. I've explained it in every single one. I'm going to do the same in here. But I have seen a lot more people using it lately in situations where it works. This is very, very strong. Now, what this does, starts off as Mistform, morph it to Elusive Mist. This will make it so that you take 75% less damage while you are in Mistform. Note, by the way, your magic recovery is stopped while you're in Mistform, but your stam recovery is not. While you're in that form, you take 75% less damage. So, very harsh mechanics. This can actually be very, very useful. Some bosses will knock you down. So, when I say that, I don't mean just select ones. Actual main bosses. So, the ones that count as the boss. Not the ads or their little minions or anything like that. The actual boss itself will knock you down. So, don't use this on main bosses. If you're up against the warrior, for example, in Hellra, don't use it. But, if you're up against war priests or anything like that, anything that will knock you down, any ads that will knock you down, any axes in Arthurian Archive that can stun you and knock you down, Mistform will not make you fall over. In fact, you'll take a lot less damage and you can stay on your feet. So if you are in trouble, especially tank and axes, if you have an abundance of them, you can pop this as an oh shit button. You will not go down. Very, very powerful indeed. So if you've got like 4 or 5 axes here right now, so you hit Mistform, they'll hit nothing but air. And then you can come out, recover, and then retaunt everything. If you're in trouble, you can use it. It's very, very strong. Not to mention, of course, it gives you a speed buff, so you can kind of move a little bit faster without having to sprint and waste your stamp pool. It's one of those situations where you can utilize it in some content, but not all. Also, by the way, in Vass, if you pop this while the fire is landing on your head, you will basically take no damage whatsoever. It's insane. Anyway, that is a flex slot. What you can also do instead of that is also in the Vampire skill line, is you can utilize Invigorating Drain. Now, this will attach a beam to the target, so obviously you mustn't need to block while doing so, because it's a channeled ability, but you can cancel it by just blocking or swapping bars. But for the 3 seconds that this is being channeled on the target, where's it gone? We lost it. You will actually heal every second for 22% of your missing health at the time, which is huge. And every 1 second, you will also generate 5 ultimate. So if you are trying to build Warhorns as quick as possible, pay attention to the mechanics. In between buffs, debuffs, and taunts and stuff like that, try and sneak in a couple of these and you will build ultimate very, very fast. It is absolutely insane. So this is a flex slot for vampire abilities for this particular setup. Mistform if you need it in certain content, the rest of the time Invigorate and Drain. Next up is Unstoppable. This is in the Heavy Armor skill line, and this is our main resistance bonus. This will give us Major Ward and Major Resolve. So they don't stack. If you've got another one of this type in your group, you don't necessarily need it, but it's also got another perk to it as well. Starts off as a movable, you morph it into Unstoppable. This will give you 5280 physical and spell resistance for 30 seconds, and will also grant you immunity to knockback and disabling effects. And this is increased by each piece of heavy armor worn, so that's why we're at our maximum right now. We are wearing 7 pieces of heavy. Very simple. You got a resist buff now for 30 seconds, but for the first 4 seconds, you cannot be knocked over. And yes, of course, you can stack that with your Mistform if you really have to. Next up is Inner Rage. This is in the Undaunted skill line. Again, alongside Bone Shield. This is just before Bone Shield, in fact. Starts off as Inner Fire, morph it to Inner Rage. This is very simple. It's a ranged taunt. So, this is a stab taunt from 7 meters away. This is a ranged taunt from 28 meters away. If something's too far away, instead of running across the room and wasting all your resources, giving it a quick stab and then running all the way back again, especially ranged targets, you can just hit it from here with a ranged taunt and it will come to you. That is as long as they are not a ranged target. If they are shooting you from that pillar over there, they're not going to come to you. So what you need to do when that happens is range taunt it, but this point where you want them to stand, overshoot it. Go backwards a bit. They'll come to you because they need to reach, and then you can come back in from there. And that's how you stack things up that are at range. Go out of their range, they'll come to you. Then come back in. Melee stuff will stay with you anyway. This also, by the way, has a synergy attached to it. So your DPS or your healers or whoever wants to take the synergy, if they do activate it, if it fires, it's got a 38% chance to fire, they will actually activate an ability which after 2 seconds will grow and explode and do damage to all nearby enemies. This is very, very powerful indeed if people are outside of 15 meters range and taunt and hitting that synergy. Next up is Unrelenting Grip. Very simple. This is a chain. 22 meters range. As well as your range taunt, you can actually actively chain stuff that can be CC'd to your feet. It will pull them straight in. If the target cannot be pulled, of course, 100% of it will be refunded. Now, this is in the Ardent Flame skill line. It starts off as Fiery Grip, morph it to Unrelenting Grip. This is the 4th ability to unlock. You will need these abilities on your bar, or a couple at least, just to get here first. But once you've got it, make sure it's Unrelenting Grip. The other one pulls you to them, not them to you. You've got to have this particular morph. Next up is Choking Talons. This is in the Draconic Power skill line, and this is the 2nd ability you unlock. Starts off as Dark Talons, morph it to Choking Talons. The other version does a lot of flame damage. This one does a small amount of magicka damage, but this immobilizes the targets on the ground. You won't be able to see it, but this area of effect here, where you see all those dusty bits, that will pin targets to the ground, so you have more control. Keep things near you. While this is active, however, it will last for 4 seconds, and then they can run off again, so make sure you've got control of them. You can reapply it if you need to. But any enemies affected will be hit with minor maim, reducing the damage that they do by 15% for 7 seconds. This also applies to bosses as well, by the way. No, you cannot immobilize the boss, but you can hit them with that ability, and it will affect them with the minor maim. Also, if anyone is nearby, they can take a synergy from this and do massive area of effect damage as well. It's really, really nice. Now, the last one is Aggressive Warhorn. Now, like I said earlier, if you want this on the front bar, you can, of course, change it to Magma Shell. Failing that, you can put Magma Shell on the back and have the block ulti on the front. So you've got a cheaper oh shit button and then a more expensive one. But for the majority of the time, you're going to want this to be Aggressive Warhorn if you can get it. Now, this does come from PvP. You might want to do some Battlegrounds, because in Battlegrounds, if you lose, you still get points. So that's safer. But this is in the Assault skill line. It's the main ultimate that is on there, obviously. Starts off as Warhorn, morph it to Aggressive Warhorn. It's expensive, but when you fire this, it lasts for 30 seconds, increasing the max mag and max stam of everyone in your group, and it will give them major force for 9 seconds, increasing all critical damage by 15%. So although the crit bonus is a lower duration than the max resources, it is still very, very beneficial indeed. Now, if you have Invigorating Drain on, like I mentioned earlier, and you perhaps are in a very easy fight for you, you've just got to apply a taunt, that's pretty much it. Because the hits coming in are nowhere near enough to cause a threat, you can just spam Invigorating Drain while keeping taunts up, and you can build this up all day long. But that depends on the content you're in. Now, we're going to get to passives. First of all, Ardent Flame skill line. You don't necessarily need all these, but we've got them anyway. This increases the damage of your burn and poison status effects. We will actually do a lot of poison status effects, believe it or not, but that's going to make more sense when we get to the gear. And for doing so, we will get stamina back once every 5 seconds. Also, however, if we apply burn-in status effects, which we can with our Unrelenting Grip, we can get magic back as well. Or instead, rather, if we apply burn-in status effect. So, if you do fire damage and you do burn-in status effects, you can get magic back once every 5 seconds. If you do poison damage, which we will be doing, you'll get stamina back, which helps towards your block sustain. When you deal direct damage with an Ardent Flame ability, you reduce the enemy's movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. Now, this is an Ardent Flame skill. We are using it. If you pull something, it's snared as well. But that's not really that important, so you don't have to get it if you don't want to, because we're going to be chaining them and pinning them anyway. But if you've got the extra points, then go for it. Now, this here increases the damage of your Fiery Breath, Searing Strike, and Dragonknight stand abilities by 3% and the duration by 2 seconds, sorry. This is not that important, and neither is World in Ruin either, because we're not doing any area of effect flame abilities. We're not actually using Fiery Breath. But if you choose to, in content where you don't have a mag DK, and you have a lot of people doing fire damage, then of course you can slot this ability. But you have to make sure that you maintain the uptime on it, because that will increase the 10% damage of all flame done to the target. But if you do not have anyone doing any fire damage in your group, there's no point. It's useless. You will do barely any damage, it won't be noticeable, and no one will benefit from it. So it depends on who you are with as to whether you need it or not. But if you do have it, then of course these passives are going to be important. Okay, next up is Draconic Power. These are very important actually. This one, Iron Skin, it reduces the amount of damage you take basically when you block. You do want that. While a Draconic Power ability is active, your healing received is increased by 12%. This is extremely important. When you have Dragon Blood active, when you look like this, you should be all the time, by the way, you have Minor Vitality, which increases your healing received by 8%. Also, for having it active, you gain another 12%. Our healing received is huge if a Draconic Power ability is active. So although this is a heal, we do want to keep this buff up all the time. Next up, this increases your health recovery by 5% for each Draconic Power ability slotted, which is not that important because we're a vampire anyway and our health recovery sucks, but it will count towards a tiny amount. But above all, this increases your range of your instant melee attack ability. So your light attack, your heavy attack, and this, your taunt. 7 meters. You do not have to be in the boss's business like this to taunt it. You can stand about here and still taunt it. Absolutely fine. You've got decent range. So that passive is important for that. Finally, of course, increases your spell resistance by 3300. That is why our spell resistance is higher than our physical, because we have a big spell resistance bonus as a Dragon Knight. You've got to get these passives. Earth and Heart, these are absolutely essential. Do not miss these at all. In fact, strive to get these as soon as possible. Increase the duration of your Earth and Heart abilities. So, if you are using Magma Shell, it lasts longer. Battle Roar, now this is the big one. Restores 52 health, 46 magic, and 46 stamina for every point of the ultimate's cost. So, this one here, 131 points of 52 health, 46 mag, and 46 stam. But, although we've got reduction to cost on us, on the Dragon Knight, although the cost is down because of our race, which I'm getting to, this still gives you the base amount. So this is actually 135. This here, instead of 194, is actually 200. And our Warhorn, instead of being 243, actually counts as 250. So we still get the base maximum amount back, even though we've got a reduction to cost. So, when you do fire an ultimate, the more expensive, the better. You get more back. But, when I said this is our oh shit button, the block ulti, not only does it let us block for free and use free abilities and heavy attack from underneath it and all that good stuff, we do get resources back for using it. So if you're very, very low, this really cheap safety ultimate is much, much easier to use than something that is 200 plus. But if you can afford it, of course, you should be striving to use a Warhorn all the time because you'll get the most out of it, and so will everybody else. But if you're in trouble, that's where the ultimate will count for the front bar, because you will get resources back and it will help you stay alive. Now, when you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you and your group gain minor brutality for 20 seconds, increasing their weapon damage, which is basically this. Weapon damage increase, shield for everybody, major mending for me, and I can borderline spam it every couple seconds or so if I want to. That is insane, and you will have minor brutality for your group 100% of the time. If you're in combat also, if you use it once every 6 seconds, you'll get 3 ultimate back. Any faster than that, you obviously won't get the bonus, but every 6 seconds minimum, you'll get 3 ultimate back for using an Earth and Heart ability. Also, every time you use that ability, because it's Earth and Heart, you will gain 990 stamina with no cooldown. So, for example, you cannot gain stamina back while blocking, so let's waste some. Now look at my bar. It's going up. And if you have a potion as well, it's even quicker, because you've got your recovery. If you drop your bar, and not if you don't, but you gain stam from it. We're using tripods, by the way. That's very important to know. So we get mag back, we get stam back, we get health back, and we can utilize this a bit more often because we've got higher mag recovery with it. If you're not familiar with those, by the way, very simple. Health back, mag back, stam back, recovery for everything. Now, yes, the major endurance and major fortitude is already on our Dragon Blood, but if it slips off, of course, your potion's already running, so you got it anyway. Sword and Board, get every single one of these. You're going to need them all. This reduces the cost of your one-handed shield abilities by 10% and reduces the blocking cost by 36%. So while blocking, it's cheaper. This increases the weapon damage of your abilities by 5% from this skill line, but also the amount of damage you can block, so you take less damage while blocking, which is insane. This one reduces the cost of blocking. This one increases its potential in terms of its strength and how much you mitigate. This one improves your standard bash attacks, so you deal more damage when you bash, which isn't that important. But of course, the cost of your bash is reduced by 40%. Increases the amount of damage you can block from projectiles, and increases your movement speed while blocking. Now, of course, while you're blocking, you move slower. So it's going to take you forever to get places. But that will increase it, so your speed is improved. If you were not using that passive, you'd move about like this. It's really slow. However, when you're using the block ulti, you run at full speed, so it doesn't make a difference. But this passive is very important. All of them, in fact, are really important. We are using no light armor at all. We're using no medium at all, so we don't need points in here. We're using 7 heavy. This one here will increase your physical and spell resistance per piece worn. This will increase your health recovery per piece worn and give you resources back. 108 stamina and magic back once every 4 seconds for each piece worn. Because we've got 7 pieces, we actually get 757 stam back for taking damage. So if you use a potion, you get resources back. If you use Ignis Shield, you get stamina back. If you take damage, you get stamina back and magic back. And if you hit with a heavy attack, you get it back. We can manage our sustain very, very well. But you've got to pay attention to mechanics. The more experienced you are, the more effective that is. Juggernaut, of course, increases your maximum health by 2% for each piece of heavy worn. So we've got 14% increase there. And increases your mag or stam return from your heavy attacks. For using heavy armor, 5 pieces in fact, your heavy attack will give you 25% back. Make sure you heavy attack. There's no reason not to. Increases your healing received by 8%. We already have 8% in our Minor Vitality from our Dragon Blood. We have a 12% for having it active, and we've got another 8% here. Our healing received is huge, and that's very important when we get to the sets. We are a stage 4 vampire, of course, because we're going to be actively using vampire abilities as and when we can, so there's no point going any lower because we're just going to go back again. We need this passive here, which gives us an increase to recovery for stamina and magic by 10%, which is huge. We can spam more abilities. And this gives us a reduction to damage the lower our health. So while under 50% health, you will take up to 33% less damage. So the lower your health, the more tanky you get. And remember, the lower the health we have, the larger the percentage of increase of the heal we get from Dragon Blood. And of course your Major Mending as well, which all stacks up quite nicely. So you can go really, really risky, really, really low, and still be safe. Now, we don't need any Fighters Guild abilities per se, but if you do have this passive and you do actually kill people that are Undead, Daedra, or Werewolf, you will gain 9 ultimate back, and that will benefit you, obviously, because you want to use your ultimates as much as possible. You don't actively go out to kill stuff, but if you do end up killing stuff, you will get this passive bonus, so do get this one. Major Skill we're not using. Undaunted, of course, you want to make sure you get every single one of these. This will give you 4% resources back from taking any synergy. You should take all the synergies you can see, especially spears and such like that, because you want resources back. But any spear or any synergy you take will give you 4% resources back on top of what it already does. This one here as well, Undaunted Metal, will give you 2% of your max resources for health, mag, and stamina per piece of armor worn. Per different type, rather. We're wearing one type. We're just wearing heavy, so we get 2% for everything. If you wore one medium and one light as well, yes, you would get 6% across the board. But our mag is so low that bonus is going to be barely anything. And our stamina is already covered enough, we don't need the extra. If you do that, your health will stay the same because we'll obviously dip 4% in our heavy armor passives, but gain it back here. However, our resistances on our heavy passives will go down. So, where that makes sense, if you lose 2 pieces of heavy, we're going to lose 2 pieces worth here. So, just over 700 resistances. We're going to lose over 200 resources back once every 4 seconds here. And, of course, the flat stats we gain from that isn't really worth it. So that's why we've gone 7 heavy. The health is the same, our resources are covered anyway, and we want to make sure we take advantage as much as possible of these major 3 heavy passives. Next up is, of course, our race. We are an Imperial. You can be an Orc if you want, you can be a Cat if you want, you can be anything you want. Second to this, I would personally say, is either Nord or Orc. They're both very, very powerful. However, if you're a Nord, you may want to mess with your resistances and champion points and such, because they do have a flat bonus to resists. Imperial, however, very high resources. So, you've got maximum health. Obviously, our abilities that we're using for shields and heals are all based off of max health. So, the higher, the better, the more effective they are. We have 2k max stam, which is massive. So, we've got a really big stam pool. And, of course, Red Diamond reduces the cost of all of your abilities, including your ultimates, by 3%. Every single thing that we ever do in terms of cost will be 3% cheaper. So we can spam our shields more often, we can taunt cheaper, we can have quicker ultimate usages. Everything there is covered. And when you deal direct damage, you heal yourself for 379 and restore 333 magicka and stamina once every 5 seconds. Now, if we say, for argument's sake, Constitution passive fires exactly the same time, the Constitution passive is over 700 resources back once every 4 seconds, plus we've got 333 mag and stand back. So, over that 4-second period, if we count just one tick, I know the timers are 1 second out, you can potentially get over 1,000 back every 5 seconds-ish for all resources while taking damage and while dealing damage. So you get hit for one and you do damage with the other. Now, of course, we don't necessarily do that much damage, but our sets do apply damage, so that will count. So it's really, really strong indeed. You can keep your resources up quite well just by doing what you're doing. And, of course, when we get to the gear, you're going to see that our resource gain is even higher just for taking damage. It's absolutely mental. But Imperial is solid. Finally, Medicinal Use is the most important passive in the game, in my opinion. If you max your alchemy out, there's a video in the description for this, by the way, to get it done really, really fast. You can then dump all your points in here, get rid of them. You don't have to make potions. You can just buy them or make them on another character. Get rid of all your points and put just 3 into Medicinal Use. That will make your potions, our health pots here, the tripods that we're using, have a 47.6 second uptime on the recovery bonuses. And the cooldown's 45. So we can use this 100% of the time and always benefit from those bonuses. Now, gear. This is where it gets fun. I'm hearing a lot of screaming about people saying this set's good now because it got buffed. Yes, it did get buffed, but it was already good. So stop making excuses. This has been on the setup for a very long time, and it is still absolutely amazing. And yes, it is now even more effective than it ever was. But here we go. Leeching, of course. Sword and board. You don't have to use a sword and board leech, and you can use 5 pieces armor if you want. And we can mess with the other set for sword and board. It depends on whatever you have. But the sword and board leech is quite easy to get, because Lord Warden from Imperial City Prison, whether you do normal or vet, can drop his own sword, which is one-hander, and defending is perfect. The shield actually comes from the quest in Imperial City Prison. So, if you're over 160 champion points, take the quest, you get the shield. If you're not, don't take the quest, wait until later. The other version on the back bar, the basic ones, do drop from bosses' ads, and you can get them from the chests as well, so you do need 2 sword and boards for it, but the first one is very, very simple to get. Now, the 5-piece bonus for this got buffed. First of all, we have max health. Obviously, we want that, we're a tank. Healing received, or healing taken, which is very, very good, because the more we heal, the higher it is. You get the idea. This used to double up. We used to have 2 of these on this set, but now we don't. Now we have another max health bonus. And when you take damage, just doing what you do best, being a tank, taking damage and protecting people and keeping the aggro and all that good stuff, you have a whopping 20% chance to summon a cloud of leech and poison under the assailant. Basically, anyone that does damage to you has a 20% chance of putting a poison AoE underneath their feet, and every 1 second for 5 seconds it will do damage, and it will heal you for 100% of the damage done. Now that 1.3k looks tiny, but your heal and receive bonuses count, and your damage bonuses towards poison, if you have any, also count to improve it in your champion points, which we're going to get to in a moment. And also, your major mending and vitality and all that good stuff. This here, major mending from your shield, buffs it. So, while that's ticking, doing damage every 1 second, you will heal and heal and heal and heal. The more enemies caught in there, the more damage is done, the more heals you received. And also, on bosses as well, it literally, to some extent, seems like the more real estate they take up, the bigger the heals, because it counts as multiple targets. Whether it should or shouldn't, I don't know, but it's done that forever, so it's very, very powerful. On bosses, you can get some seriously big heals, but in trash pools as well, it's almost impossible to die. It's absolutely mental. This was an 8% bonus in the past, 8% chance to fire it. Now it's 20, so 1 in 5 hits will make this fire. Now, we are using poisons, of course. This here immobilizes your target, if they can be, but at the same time grants you unstoppable, rendering you immune to control effects. So basically, you don't need to break free, because this will do it for you if it fires. You don't need to fire immovable if it's already running. You don't have to double cast it, and you basically can't be knocked down. So immovable lasts 4 seconds, and while you're on your front bar, as long as it's ran out, the actual CC immunity, you can actually fire this poison and get more immobile effect, so you can't be stunned or CCs and any of that stuff. It's really, really handy. So you're very hard to knock down, and you're very hard to kill. You don't have to use these if you don't want to, but I found them extremely effective, and this can actually happen every 10 seconds for 4.5 seconds almost. It's really, really nice. Back bar, by the way, you can just have a damage shield glyph if you want. There's no point in having crushes or anything like that, because I'm sure other people will have them running, and we're not using an ice staff, so it's going to be weaker anyway. So I would put a damage shield on the back bar, but it's entirely up to you what you use. Reason being is we don't have a block bonus on the back bar, so a little damage shield does kind of help. But this here, defending and Nirnhoned on purpose, because defending will obviously give us higher resistances, and we want to make sure we get as close to cap as possible. And Nirnhoned is the highest resistance bonus you'll get with a shield, over top of reinforced. It's only, I believe, like 25, 26 points higher, but it does actually give you more. So if you've got the spare traits, go with this. If not, you can go reinforced and you'll be just fine. It's only a tiny amount. Now, we are, of course, using Stonekeepers. You want heavy on both of them, sturdy on the shoulders, reinforced on the head. This will give you a stand bonus, a mag bonus, and a health bonus, which is quite nice. And at the same time, when you block an attack, you gain an energy charge stack, which stacks up to 6 times. Every single block will count to 1 of these stacks. And when it does stack, it will burst. And when that burst happens, you will gain back 5350 stamina, and magic, and heal for 6k. And it can happen once every 14 seconds. So once it's fired, it's got a 14-second cooldown from the actual pop itself. This is nuts. You can heavy attack and get back sustain. You can use igneous shields and get back sustain. You've got constitution, you've got your red diamond passive, and you've got this that will fire, and it can actually reapply every 14 seconds. It is broken as hell. It is like having a built-in tripod for yourself, or having a built-in Argonian passive, or both. It's nuts. Really, really powerful. But you'll see this in a moment when I demonstrate it. Now, this comes from Frostbolt, and the shoulders can actually come from the chest, from the Undaunted areas. Although my luck on this shoulder in the Undaunted chest has been really, really bad. But if you have a medium or light, you can get away with it. But you want to go for heavy if you can. Now, finally, the other set. If you were using Xynode in the past, you can still use it, because for blocking, you will buff your group with Empower, increasing their light attack damage. So that's still very effective. But if you want to go the extra mile, and you have Elsweyr, and you like running trials, you do not have to run vet, by the way. You can run it on normal, and there are many, many people running it at the moment because it's new. Get in there and get this gear quick. It's quite easy to get through on normal. You want this. And no, I'm not going to try and pronounce it. I have no idea how the fuck you say that. I know people are going to type it out in the chat, but you're too late. The video's done. This will give you health, minor Aegis, increasing your damage mitigation bonus basically by 5% for all damage you take in dungeons and trials. It will give you a stamina bonus as well. Now, this is the perfected version, so you do get an extra health bonus. If you don't have the perfected version, you just miss 1.2k health. That's all. So you'll be down to just under 50k health. And the fifth piece bonus, when you taunt an enemy, you give yourself and 11 group members minor courage for 15 seconds. This is a new buff. This is currently the only set that applies it. This stacks with major courage. So Olorimes or spell power cure, that's major. This is minor. And you increase your entire group's weapon and spell damage by 129. And this can happen once every 8 seconds. It lasts 15, but you can apply it every 8. So basically, as long as you never let a taunt run out, this is 100% uptime buffing your group. It's a tank set that buffs your group. There's loads of arguments out there about what is and isn't a tank set because of buffs and debuffs, etc, etc. This is an actual tank set designed for tanking that buffs. Just like Xynode's is, health, reduction to damage, incoming, healing received, health again. If you block, you buff people. If you taunt, you buff people. The choice of which one you use is yours, but this is very, very powerful. It is new. It is a new buff. You can obviously put that inside your group now to further enhance the performance of your group outside of what you already have. So I would definitely recommend that. It's very, very powerful indeed. So, to recap, you've got leeching, take damage, you do poison, you heal. Healers don't need to focus on you, they can focus on the group. In the meantime, while blocking, you get resources back. Absolutely solid, you're not going to run out of juice. And of course, you take less damage and everybody else deals more damage. Everything you need is all in one place. Now, as far as traits are concerned, of course, we have gone over these ones already, but it's defending on the weapons and 900 on the shields. Reinforced helmet, reinforced chest, sturdy on everything else to give you that extra block cost reduction. Jewelry needs to be magic recovery on every single one and all in healthy. Very, very simple. And now we'll go over the CPs first and then I'll show you a demonstration. So champion points wise, you can change these depending on the content, but the blue and the green ones are pretty solid. So 72 points into Ironclad to reduce the incoming direct damage by 23% of anything you get hit by. We are the ones getting hit. We do want to make sure we buff this quite a bit. 56 and 56 into Hardy and Elemental Defender, so we take a 12% reduction to damage for everything else. And of course, 18% into Thick Skinned, 48 points in fact, so we take less damage from damage over time. But pay attention here to, of course, Unchained. If you do break free, you will have this passive pop, and for the next 5 seconds, your next stamina ability will be 80% less. So, if you do break free from something, fire off Immovable, you got a resistance buff now for 30 seconds that costs you bugger all. 19 points into Quick Recovery to increase our healing received even more. We have healing received in our sets, we have them in our passives, we have them in our skills. We've got loads of healing received. This does contribute. And also, heavy armor focus. We've got 19 points into here to give us 1.8k physical resistance, because as a Dragon Knight, we are quite low physical resistance-wise, but very high spell resistance. So this kind of plugs the gap that we're missing. It doesn't give us quite the equal amount, but it does give us enough to make sure we're over 30k, even without a minor resistance buff. And of course, you've got this passive. You will be resin people. With this setup, you will probably be the last one alive in lots of situations, and where people would normally just wipe and give up, you can kind of pick people back up again. You drop a block ulti and start resin people while Leeching's running, you're not going to die. So when you do resurrect people, of course, you take less damage. So that's your moment of glory to raise the group up and not fail. And also you have this passive here as well, which is relatively low based on our max resources being low. But you do give people 207 magical recovery for 8 seconds once you resurrect them. So this can be handy as well. You do get those both for free just for having that many points in this tree. 56 points into Warlord to reduce the cost of break free. We do have a movable, of course, and we can utilize that to get out of situations. We can use Mistform as well, but if you do actually need to actively break free properly, it will cost less. 64 points into Tenacity to give us a 13% increase to the return that we get from our heavy attacks. We do have a 25% increase because we're using heavy armor, but of course this will count towards it as well. And Arcanus increasing our mag recovery by 14%. We are using the mag recovery Mundustone. We use mag recovery in our food if you choose to use that one. It's in our potions, and of course it's in our glyphs, so you want to make sure we've got as much as possible. 9 points into Tumbling. You will have to dodge roll occasionally, so there's a 4% reduction there. And of course 66 points into Shadow Ward. This is a block cost reduction bonus, and it does stack alongside of your sturdy traits and your block cost reduction skills and passives. Don't go too high into this because it is massive diminished returns, but this is very, very comfy where it is. If you want to put more points into block cost reduction in your glyphs and all that kind of stuff, you can, but just remember it's a trade-off and you will lose recovery, so you won't be able to spam your shields as often, so you won't be able to protect your group as much. 51 into Elfborn. This is where it gets really important. This is for your crit heals. You have one heal. You don't need loads and loads of points into here because you won't crit it very often, but when you do crit it, this will count. However, I'm going to show you how you can definitely crit it on purpose in certain situations. 75 points into Blessed to receive more heals. 14% of all your healing done. That's very important. Igneous Shields give you a 25% increase to healing done. This will also give you increased healing done as well. Our leeching is going to be really important when we get to the next lot of points. Now, Vengeance. There is a video for this, actually. I'll put it in the description. When you block 3 spells within 10 seconds of each other, so you block a spell, 9 seconds later you block another one. This hasn't run out yet. That will count stacking to 2. When it stacks to 3, you have 5 seconds to use a Magicka ability. If you do, it will guaranteed critically strike. Now, if you fire Igneous Shields, that doesn't have a crit rating, so that doesn't consume this buff. So you fire Igneous Shields, now you've got a 25% increase to heals. If you fire your Dragon Blood, that does have a crit rating. It does actually scale off of the ability to be able to crit. So, when this is up to 3 and it's stacked, you took 3 spells to the face and you've got 3 stacks in this, hit Igneous first, Dragon Blood second, you will guarantee crit heal at its max potential, and you can actually heal from 0 to full in 1 tick. So just block, 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 Igneous heal, done. Very, very strong indeed. There is a video for it where I demonstrate it, but that's basically, in a nutshell, how that works, and you only need 10 points in this tree to do it. 3 points in a Physical Weapon Expert, because I've got nowhere else to put them. I might as well have a 2% increase to my light and heavy attack damage. Why not? This is the big one. 75 points into Mighty to increase all of our poison, physical, and disease damage done. Our leeching set is all poison damage, and this buffs it flat. Thaumaturge does contribute towards leeching. If you put points into Master at Arms, it shows in the stats for the set that it increases it, but it actually, stat-wise, does not. Thaumaturge does work, because it counts as damage over time. Each tick is improved. This will give us the maximum output that we can afford to spend points into for that particular set. The stronger the damage from it, the larger the heals from it. The higher your healing received, the larger the heals from the heals that are already improved that you'll get. Major Mending as well on top. You see where we're going with this. They are stacks of damage flat to increase your healing received from your buffs, and then to increase your healing done, it goes up and up and up and up and up. Now I can demonstrate that in a moment, but above all, in this passive here, for having 120 points in this skill line, when you go below 20% health, you will get Major Heroism, increasing your ultimate gain. So you will gain 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 8 seconds, and this can occur once every 20. So if you do go low, not only are you safe because you're a vampire, not only can you take advantage of the Vengeance passive and heal to full, but you can also get increased ulti gain and start pumping out faster Warhorns or block ultis or whatever you need at the time. Very, very effective indeed. These are used here on purpose. I didn't throw shit against the wall just for no reason. They do work. Anyway, now I'm going to get to the demonstration, the fun part. I always do this in Veteran Hellra Citadel. As you can see, it is on Vet. I'm going to run through, and I'm just going to grab everything. And you can see how this works survival and sustain-wise. Also, it would help if I went the correct way. So let's try that again. Where's my horse? By the way, if you're in Hellra and you are doing the whole everybody run to the gate thing and your horse hasn't got a lot of stamina, get off it. Because otherwise you're going to get knocked down and you're going to die. You can't break CC from it. We're going to run all the way to the end, grab everything. CC break is easy. Mistform for the win. Remember, keep your Dragon Blood up, because you need it for the heals. Legion just proc then, but I won't spoil too much. You're looking for the white light on my chest that just makes a really high-pitched sound every second it ticks. Okay, resist buff up. We'll grab everything. I can pretty much block all day anyway, but I'm not going to. Immovable is on, so they can't knock me down. Heavy attack from underneath it, keep your shields up. Immovable's on again. Heavy attack, igneous. Heavy attack, igneous again. Now look, watch my resources. One more block. Resources back up again. That helmet is disgusting. I need to move a bit because you can't really see. Block ulti. Resist buff back up. Heavy attack from underneath it. You're not going to run out. I'm blocking a lot here. You see the mouse in my buff timers? My resources are now going to go up again. There you go. Full. 5k back once every 14 seconds for blocking that amount is ridiculous. Movable is on. Heavy attack from underneath. Bone shield if you need to. Igneous all the time. Yeah, Legion's disgusting. See all that damage? All that damage is proc and heals. Every single tick there is giving me the equivalent back in the form of a heal. But it scales higher because of my Major Mending, Minor Vitality, all the heal and receive bonuses, all that good stuff. It's absolutely nuts. Anyway, we can do that all day. We don't need to. You are never, ever, ever, ever going to have to tank that many things all at once. There's no point. You're not going to. But that just goes to show how you can keep your sustain up and not die. I'm taking barely any damage whatsoever. The heals are keeping me up all the time. Now the healers can focus on the squishies, while I maintain a taunt, protect the group, and keep that minor courage buff up. So I'm buffing, taunting, and protecting all at once. Remember, food-wise, you can use the recovery food for more igneous spamming, or you can use the flat stuff and just be careful with your sustain. So hopefully it helped, hopefully that wasn't too boring, hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build. Keep your buffs up, keep your taunts up, protect your group with shields. It's very, very simple and effective. You've got everything you need in one place. By the way, you will hear a lot of people saying that Legion is good now. Legion was always good. But confirmed, yes, it got buffed to hell. Anyway, first of all, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. And if you are not subscribing, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside of the channel, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website XynodeGaming.com. You can get Real Ninjas Eat Cake t-shirts now. And of course, don't forget I live stream on Twitch every single night from 10 PM UK time. Unless, of course, I say otherwise on Twitter and I have to be somewhat unavailable. But apart from that, every single night. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.